me. First of all, welcome to this new Issue Resolution Academy webinar, the first one of 2025. And the topic will be mastering seller feedbacks and customer product reviews. It's me. I'm Michele. I'm working for as an account manager here for Amazon Selling Partner Support since almost 4 years now. And I will today introduce my colleague Teddy that will actually present this topic for you. Just a quick introduction. I think that you all know already what the Issue Resolution Academy project is. Just to underline that we are at the third year of this project, which for which we received very good feedbacks from you, from our sellers. So we are very proud of our creature, which is coming out from our department. The seller support is a project of from us, and that's very good. That works so well. So thank you, first of all. Um, and we can quickly go to the topic of today, which is quite sensible topic, I know. We will try to do our best uh, with the same rules as always. So we planned at 20, 30 minutes, let's say, at 30, 40 minutes of delivery of presentation, followed by 20 minutes of Q&A, where you can, actually send the questions through the chat section, even throughout the presentation. I will try to collect them, maybe reply to them if it's possible during the presentation, and then ask eventually Teddy to reply at during the last 20 minutes of the Q&A. We will not be able to address questions that are unrelated to the topic, legally sensitive, or seller specific, and I will add also case specific, meaning, for example, we will not provide any comments on feedbacks coming from your accounts. We will not evaluate feedback removals during the session. So if you have a feedback that you will like to have it evaluated for removal, just as usual, contact seller support first. We will not provide this because first and foremost, we need to investigate every feedback in case of removal. So it's impossible for us to do it during this presentation and during this webinar. The last thing is, please kindly fill the survey that will be shared with you at the end of the session. For us, it's very important to assess the project, how we are going, how the topic is going, the topic we presented today, if it was good or not, and also what we can improve, and also finally which topics do you like to have addresses in the next sessions. Just before giving the word the floor to Teddy, I would like to make a quick introduction on this topic. We know that feedbacks and customer reviews are a very sensitive topic, or let's say quite delicate and painful in some in some ways for some sellers. Just for letting you know, we at seller support, we are not the ones who decide the policy from Amazon on this topic, for sure. We just try to provide you with the best let's say tools and the best knowledge that we can, and to share with you what we know about this and what you can do to prevent any uh, possible bad feedback or unpolite review, if you want. So we just try to do our best to share this knowledge, and for our goal is to have you satisfied at the end of the day. So we try to do so with our tools, which are a bit, let's say, limited in this topic, but we think that they are important to be shared with you. Thank you once again, and sorry for the introduction, Teddy. I think it was interesting to share a couple of words before, and you have the floor, and let's start.
Thanks a lot, Michele. Hi, everyone. I'm Teddy, indeed, and I'll be the one who will deliver the presentation for today. So, as Michele said, indeed, the issue with this kind of topic is that sellers have a lot of grudge against this policy, and we know that for sure because in some occurrences, even us, we don't really understand what happens and why it happens. But the purpose of this presentation is not to say that things are fair or good, but just to understand how they work so you can act on what you can act regarding these topics. So just to give you quickly this session objective, so obviously we will just have a quick definition of those two topic, which are the customer reviews and the seller feedback, and also understanding the key difference and the key aspects of both of those things on the Seller Central. And mainly the main focus will be more on how you can manage them, the kind of issue you can encounter with this kind of things with the customer review and the seller feedback, and what you can do to try and resolve those issues. There will be, of course, limited action depending on the topic, but there will be some point that will be interesting to talk about during the presentation or even during the Q&A session, in order to have a better understanding of those two topics. Before I actually kick off with the presentation, I just would like to say that I don't have access to the chat during the presentation. So if there is any issue with the sound or if the share screen is freezing or something like this, feel free to write it in the chat so Michele can let me know and I can adjust so the presentation will be more ergonomic for you. So that being said, we can kick off. And we can start with the key difference and the key aspects of customer reviews and seller feedback. Basically, on these slides, you will have many aspects that will help you to differentiate both of those things on Amazon. But mainly, what you have to remember if you don't know anything about customer review or seller feedback is that the customer product review are only product oriented, which is why they are only on the product detail page, and that they are just about the product. So it doesn't depend on which seller sold the product. It's really the product itself. In opposite to the seller feedback, where the feedback will leave specifically for one seller and for one order, which explains also why this is the feedback that will be impacting your metrics and also your buy box eligibility in some occurrences. And the other big difference between the two is that the customer product review cannot be removed by the selling partner support. If you encounter an issue with a customer product review and you want to have it removed, you can contact the seller partner support. They will guide you through the process to make the appeal and make the report, but they will not be able to investigate on the report itself. As opposite to the seller feedback, where in some occurrences, in some cases, you will be able to be in touch with an agent from the seller support. We will perform the investigation on your feedback removal request. The other point that is mentioned at the bottom of the page is that for the customer review and the seller feedback, in any occurrences, you should not try to influence the ratings by any means because it violates Amazon's policy. So just to give you an example, you cannot promise a coupon or any kind of promotion to a seller in exchange of a good feedback, or promise a reimbursement and so on. So yeah, you should avoid doing that because it's against Amazon policy. But that's something that is pretty understandable for most of the sellers in most of the case. So now to go a little bit deeper with the customer product reviews. So I'm pretty sure that most of you knows what a customer review is and where you can find it. But just to give you an example, I will go on amazon.co.uk and go on any product I can find. Let's say this one, this monitor for a computer. And if we scroll down on the page after all the product description, product information, and similar product, we will have a section with customer reviews. This will be the section where all the reviews related to the product itself will be left by the buyers. What you need to remember about those product reviews is that since it's about the product, you may see a customer uh, that ordered the product with a different seller if you're several sellers on the same product detail page. And also you can see um, reviews that come from uh, a customer that did not purchase the product on Amazon. Because since the review is about the product, in order to give their opinion about the product, the customer doesn't have to buy it specifically with us one seller or specifically on Amazon. So, for example, if I go back to the example with this monitor, if this monitor has a really high quality definition for the image, you don't have to buy it on Amazon to say that. So a customer can go on the page and explain what he thinks about the product. Um, as long as it's relevant to explain that about the product quality or the product aspect for itself. So going back to the presentation, uh, if you see a review on the product detail page that you think doesn't belong on the product detail page, that's not its place, you can make a report to ask for this review to be removed. The only thing is, and as I said earlier, is that the selling partner support will not be able to investigate and act on the review remove. That will be handled by a different team, and the seller support will assist you to contact this team and to basically raise your case, but they won't be able to act on it. And the customer review can only be removed if it conflicts with the customer review community guideline. So this page, you will find the link to the page directly on at the end of the presentation. But this is the community guideline, and if you have never read it, I will highly recommend you to take a look at it just to have a quick idea of what does belong on Amazon website and what should be removed, or where you can actually ask for it to be removed. Um, I will go back to the presentation. So in this slide, you have an example, like two examples of reviews that can be eventually removed depending on the case. So when it comes from the buyer's fault per se, it's when they try to add links to external sites because it's not allowed by the customer review community guideline. And from the seller side, because of course you can also see mistake from other sellers regarding the customer review. And if you see that the seller has created a variation relationship between products that are not really that doesn't belong in the variation relationship only to boost the review ratings, then you can also make a report for that if you see any occurrences of that for one of your product or like a competitor product. You can make a report for that if you see that the seller is trying to trick with the review system. Mm, to make the report itself, you have two options to do that. You can either go on the review that you want to report and click on report. So if we take again the example that we have earlier, if we just scroll down to any review, you will always have the report button. So you just have to click on it, and then we guide you to the report process. But you can also you send an email to the community, the community help at amazon.co.uk, amazon.fr, amazon.ie, depending on the marketplace when you found the review. And when you send an email to this team directly, you can compile several review in the same email. You don't have to do one email per review. Uh, the most important thing to to remember about regarding this team is that they will handle all the case, but they will not necessarily reply to all of them because, as you may imagine, with the number of products that are on Amazon and the number of reviews that they are receiving a lot of reports, and for that they won't be able to reply to every each of them. But it's not because they didn't reply to you directly that they didn't handle your case. If you made a report and you see after a few days that the review has not been removed, and you haven't had any response from the community team, it means that they have decided that the review has to stay on the platform because it doesn't violate the community guidelines. There are some occurrences when the community team will give you an explanation on why they have to remove or keep one review, but it's not systematic. So if you don't receive any response, it's not really necessary to make several reports for the same review. As long as you made one, this review will definitely be reviewed by the community team. Regarding the other issue that you may encounter for the customer review is the review sharing, like the fact that the review, if they have to appear on several detailed page, um, there are occurrences where it doesn't happen. Usually for the variation family, if depending on the theme of the variation and the category of the variation, there will be the same amount of reviews no matter the child is in the variation family. For instance, if you are selling shirts and you are selling the shirts in different colors, the reviews will be the same for every single colors because it's the same fabric, it's the same brand. So it will be the same amount of review in every detail page from this variation family. But if you see it's not the case and you don't understand why, there's some aspect that you can check. Like you can check if the ASIN is active, you can check if there's at least one customer review for this page, etc. Um, and also, what kind of troubleshooting you can do on your own if you see this kind of issue is that you can use the listing loader on Seller Central. So if you go on add a product via flat file, you can find a file which is named listing loader, and it will help you to compare if you have all the key attributes for all your ASIN in the variation family. And as it's written on the slide, the key attributes are the browse node, the product type, the brand, but there's a lot of them. So you can check if all the key attributes are the same. And if after that you see that you've made all the updates to be consistent in the variation family, but you still have an issue with the review sharing, then you can contact the seller support and ask them for further investigation so they can see why the reviews are not sharing in your variation family. With the review sharing, there's also issue you can encounter with the global review sharing, which are basically the reviews from other countries that are shown on a different marketplace. I think from the uh, yeah, we have top review from United Kingdom here, and if we scroll down, we have top reviews from other countries. So this is the global review sharing feature. So basically, yeah, it will be review in a different language, different marketplace, for the same product that will help to boost the product ratings. This feature is mainly available for brand owners or sellers that are registered to brand registry. Uh, of course, the product must have the same brand across all stores, so it can work. But also, due to the Amazon's policy, there will be some ASINs and more specifically some categories where the global review sharing is not applicable. So if you see that you don't have the global review sharing on your product detail page and you have a doubt about that, you can contact the seller support to ask them to investigate, and they will be able to tell you if there is any kind of issue that prevent the global review sharing to work properly, or if it's the case where there's no global review sharing in the system for that ASIN or that specific category. But yeah, it's kind of complicated to be more precise than that because it will be like a case by case approach. But in any case, if you have a doubt about the global review sharing, I highly recommend you to contact the seller support to ask for further explanation and further investigation. So now that we reviewed a bit the customer review, we will attack the main part of this presentation, which are the seller feedbacks. So um, again, I don't think I have to give you the definition of what is a seller feedback. I think most of you already know what it is, but in case on the presentation you have some important key aspects to remember about the feedback. Um, Regarding the point that are raised in this slide, yeah, it will be only one feedback per order because there's no sense to have like several feedback on the same order, which is why the buyer has to wrap up his own experience on the feedback. And as I said earlier, the feedback will be a way for the buyer to express his feelings and his opinion and his is feedback about an order and the order experience. The order experience, which include the information on the product detail page that you have, and here we go to the delivery of the product and the customer service you will deliver in case there is an issue. So these are all the things that the buyer can evaluate in the feedback. At the bottom of the page, you can see a sentence that is really, really, really important, and which is also, I think, the main pain point for most of the sellers, not only the one who are participating to this presentation, but all the sellers in general. Is that Amazon has a very strict policy of preserving all buyer feedback, even the negative one. And we're doing so regardless of the fact that the situation and the issue has been resolved, or if the sellers has any objection on that. And same goes for the buyers. If we remove the feedback, if the buyer disagree that we remove it, if we did it as per policy, we will not reinstate the feedback. So this is something that we can talk more specifically during the Q&A session, because I'm pretty sure that some of you have example where you think it's unfair that we left the feedback, or like you would like to have a better understanding on why we keep some feedback and why we remove some others. But one thing before we move on to the scenarios when we can remove the feedback, one thing that is really important to understand is that for every feedback, there will be a case by case approach. So sometimes you will have two feedback that you think they are similar, but they are not exactly the same, which may explain why we will keep one and remove the other. And also, as it's said in the policy, because the sentence that we put at the bottom of the presentation for this slide is the first sentence that you will find in the EDL page, which names can Amazon remove a buyer feedback? And it is really important because it's from this everything. It's the topic that leads everything basically, because Amazon is not allowed to remove freely buyer's feedback. At some occurrences, we will have to say no when you ask us to do it. And it's not that we don't want to remove it, it's just that the policy doesn't allow us to do it. So that's an aspect that everyone needs to understand. And again, if you have question about that, I really encourage you to ask your question in the chat and we can cover that at the end of the presentation. Moving on to the rest of the presentation. Before we go over the different scenarios when we can eventually remove the feedback, I would just have a quick word regarding the feedback manager, which is the feature when you can manage your feedback on Seller Central. So if I remember well, when you go on Seller Central, you can click on the menu at the left of the page, and under Performance Feedback Manager, you will access the page that will give you an overview of all the feedback you receive in a certain time. There is 30 days, 90 days, and it goes until lifetime. So every single feedback you received. And this will be the page that will help you to determine how many feedback you receive, what are negative one, what are the root cause of those negative feedback. And it will help you to address buyers' concern promptly, to rethink your strategy as for the delivery of your product or the product detail page and stuff like this, just to see where are the room for improvement for your activity. And also it will give you the opportunity to post a public reply to the feedback when it's appropriate. So you can reply to positive, neutral, and negative feedback. So when you see that it's really important for you to give your point of view and to give your side of the story when there was an issue, or if you just want to thank the buyers, you can use this section to post a public reply. But mostly the feedback manager will be the tool that you will use when you want to ask for a removal of the feedback. So for any feedback you receive, you will always have a button when you can either post a public reply or you can request the removal of the feedback. When you do so, I actually insist on the feedback manager because that's the only way to request a feedback removal. If you contact the seller support by opening a case through your case log and you ask to the removal of one or several feedback, the seller support will always redirect you to the feedback manager because that's the only way to actually investigate on a feedback removal request. So when you go on the feedback manager and you request the removal of one or several feedbacks, at the first step, the investigation will be led by a bot. there will be a bot that will be reviewing your feedback with an AI, and they will check three things on your feedback. Sorry. So yeah, there will be three eligible scenario where the bot will remove the feedback. So it's the three scenarios that are mentioned in the help page that I was talking about earlier. Can Amazon remove buyer feedback? And they will remove it if there's a word commonly understood to be obscene or profane. They will remove it if there are personal identifiable information and if the feedback is a product review. For the product review, I will go more into detail in the next slide. But for the first 2 points, well, it's pretty self-explanatory, but just to give you an example, like I won't give an example of an obscene or profane word because that's not the place to say more like this. But I will just give you an example that I've seen recently. If the buyer says that the seller is a scammer or that the order is a scam, well, even if it's really a pejorative word, like really negative word, it's not profanity or an obscenity. So for this reason, the bot will not be able to understand this as an obscenity or profanity and will not remove the feedback. And same goes if we go further investigation on that. We will check the definition of the word if we have any doubt, but if it's not defined in a dictionary as obscene or profane, we won't be able to remove it. Same goes for the personally identifiable information, which is just the phone number, physical address, email address, full name. That's the kind of information that are not that they don't have their place on the feedback. They can be displayed somewhere else on Amazon or on your Seller Central, but not on the feedback. So if the system detects it, or if you report a feedback that has something like this in it, we'll remove it. But um, uh, for instance, the name of your company is not a personally identifiable information because it's on your front page. So I've seen example where the seller asked to have the feedback removed because the buyer just give the seller's company name, but that's not a personally identifiable information. It has to be something personal. So the full name of the person who owned the company or stuff like this. This is the kind of information we can remove. Um, as it's also said in the slide, yeah, you need to raise your feedback removal request in within 90 days after the feedback submission, sorry, which means that if you do it after 90 days, your request will be automatically denied, even if we are in a scenario where it would have been eligible for removal. So really should be careful on that to not take too long to report feedback if you want to report one. Because if we are in an eligible scenario but we are too late, the system will prevent us to remove the feedback. So this is the first step when you uh, report a feedback. So you will have a bot that will review the feedback, but there's many things that the bot will not be able to understand or to interpret. So they will obviously say no, that they can remove the feedback. And if they do so, you can reopen the case and give further explanation on why you think this feedback should be removed. And at this stage, there will be an agent that will be assigned to the case and that will manually investigate your request. There are two main topics that we should be careful about feedback removal. And as I said earlier, like it's about the feedback that are product related. Basically, and as I said at the beginning of this presentation, the product reviews are the reviews about the product itself, about its aspect, about whether or not the buyer likes it. And we will consider it as a product review as long as the product received is exactly what the buyer was expecting to receive. Uh, on the rest of the slide, we develop a bit on that because Amazon will not consider as product review the comment about the accuracy of the product description and the condition of the product, because those aspects are managed by the seller. If you see that the product description on your product page is not accurate, it's up to you as a seller to update it just to avoid the buyers to have wrong expectations. To give you a proper example, I have the same example that the shirt that I talked about earlier. If the buyer said that he ordered a shirt with you and he thinks that the shirt is too small for him, that's a product review because no matter with who he ordered the product, his appreciation of the product, it's about the product, it's not about you. But if he said that he ordered a product in a size M and he received a size S, this is an issue about the product description or the accuracy of the product detail page, because he ordered a specific product in a specific site and he received a different size. So that means that at some point, either on the product detail page or when the seller prepared the shipping, there was an issue somehow, and that led to this to the buyer dissatisfaction. Same goes for the feedback that contain both product review and feedback about the seller service. Because in this instance, yes, they will talk about the product, but if they also mention something about the service you delivered, it does belong to a feedback. So we'll not be able to remove, même si part of it is not really at his workplace. We have to keep the entire feedback because, as it was also mentioned on the previous slides, we cannot edit the feedback. The feedback stay as it is as soon as it's posted. So that's the first aspect that will in most of the case implies a manual investigation. And there's also the delivery issue. Um, so I know that many sellers, because we are received this kind of feedback, that many sellers thinks it's unfair that they receive a negative feedback when there was a delivery issue that was caused by the courier, especially when there's lateness or when the order is lost. But the idea is that, as I said, the feedback is meant to let the buyer give his evaluation and his experience about the entire order experience. And the delivery of the product is included in the order experience. So this is the reason why in most of cases, we won't be able to remove feedback when the buyer said that he received the product late or that the product was lost or they're still waiting for the product. In most cases, the feedback will stay on the platform because it's not an eligible scenario to remove it. There are scenarios when we can strike through the feedback and leave a note on it. It's when Amazon is responsible of the issue itself, which will be the case when the order is an Amazon fulfilled order, so an FBA, because in that specific example, it's Amazon who will ship and take care of the carrying of the product and delivery of the product. So in that case, we will strike through the feedback and we will leave a note saying that the item was fulfilled by Amazon. So we are responsible of the fulfillment expense, not the seller, and it will not impact your statistic as a sellers. Same goes for the old program from buy shipping experience, from buy shipping service, sorry, which are Amazon Shipping, Amazon Logistics, the by shipping indeed, and also the shipping settings automation. That's the kind of program when you use them, it will most of the time be program where Amazon will impose to you a specific carrier. So for that, if there is any delayed or undelivered orders, then we will strike through the feedback and we will state that the fulfillment issue is not associated to you directly, but to something else. And again, the feedback will stay, it will be struck through, but it will not impact your statistics. Mm, Then we also have specific cases where we can eventually remove the feedback. And some of those cases, not an exhaustive list, but there's some cases, for instance, when the feedback is about the return cost, but it's the seller who paid it. So in this kind of instance, we will remove the feedback. If it's a feedback on a cancel order, but again, it will depend on who canceled the order and why. And there will be different scenarios where somewhere we can remove the feedback, somewhere we cannot. So this will require a case-by-case investigation. And there's also the feedback about the customer experience or the customer service delivered by the seller, but we don't find any communication on Seller Central between the buyer and the seller. In these occurrences, there will be chances that we can remove the feedback depending on the case, depending on the investigation made. We will be able to remove the feedback because it's related to an issue that we cannot verify on the platform regarding the customer experience. And as it is mentioned as an important point, those scenarios will always be reviewed as a case-by-case approach. So you already find some scenarios, or you will find some scenarios when you see that it would have been possible to remove the feedback, but in the reality we cannot because of the specific aspects of this order in particular. Um, we have here some example of feedback that are considered as product review and feedback that are not considered as product review. I will not go through all of them. I will just give you a few seconds to read some of them. And as you can see, and as I already said before, the thing with the product review is that as long as the the review is about the product itself, its nature, or its appreciation by the buyer, it will be considered as a product review. If it's anything other than that, it will not be considered as a product review. Especially the last point of this section, when we say that any claim which indicates that the item is fake, counterfeit, damaged, an imitation, or a knockoff of any kind, this is something that may depend on the seller, not all the time, but that may depend on the seller, because if the product is indeed a fake one, it's not because the buyer don't like it, it's maybe because there was a mistake with the fabrication of the product, or like there was actually a dishonesty on the order. So this is the kind of feedback that we won't be able to remove just because the seller disputes it. Um, Regarding the other best practice that we can give for the feedback management, if you see that you receive a lot of negative feedback that report issues with the detail page accuracy, you should take the lead and try to update the detail page. If you cannot do so, because there will be instances when you will try to input some information on the detail page but it doesn't go through, then you should contact the seller support to ask for assistance. There will be occurrences when we won't be able to perform the change on your behalf, especially if the product is a brand protected product, if there's like a brand registry uh, on the product. But in any case, if you know that some changes are necessary in a product page, you should always document it. So if you have image of the product, see if you have I don't know, manufacturer link, or like any sort of documentation that will help you to prove that this aspect of the product page is incorrect, so it needs to be corrected. In that case, the seller support will do everything they can to help you to update the product page, so we can ensure the best experience for the buyers. Mm, for the other point regarding the support and the availability, it's pretty self-explanatory. I don't have to develop more than that. It's true that uh, many sellers will feel frustrated when they try to give the best customer experience, but in the end, the buyer will still be unsatisfied and will still leave a negative feedback. For this aspect, because that's a question that we already have in previous presentation earlier today, um, I just want you to know and to understand that when a buyer encounter an issue, even if you helped, and because you're supposed to help as per the customer service guidelines, you're supposed to help the buyer to resolve the issue. Even if you resolve the issue, it doesn't mean that the issue never existed. And some of the buyers, they will focus on that. They will just focus on the fact that sorry, they will focus on the fact that, okay, the seller helped me to resolve the issue, but there was the issue anyway, and I want to talk about it. And this is the kind of area where Amazon needs to stay impartial, and we cannot take one part or the other part. If the buyer wants to talk about that, we have to let him talk about that. I'm sorry. So, um, to conclude with the best practice for the feedback removal, regarding the delivery, there's always room for improvement for with the delivery, because we know that most of the sellers, they don't handle the delivery themselves. They will always ask a carrier to do so. But if you see that there's a lot of lateness with one carrier, maybe it can be an option to try to change the carrier, to try to simplify the time frame, to adapt the time frame of shipping or delivery, just to be sure that you recover any um, issue that may occur during the carrying of the product. And also, to simplify your mind on all of that, you also have the option to basically delegate the responsibility to Amazon through our different programs. It's not an obligation, and also it has the big advantage that when there is an issue, Amazon will take responsibility of it. But the downside of it is that for all those programs, there you have to pay to use them, so it's a cost that you need to consider. And in some occurrences, it's maybe more interesting for you to try to adapt your own shipping settings instead of using an Amazon paid program. But if you are able to use this kind of program and it's not too much of a big cost for you, it's the best option for you, because Amazon will assume the responsibility for you. And if there is any feedback related to the shipping, delivery, and stuff like this, you will have it will not impact your statistics and your metrics as a seller. So that's the per se the best option. But again, it's also have its downside. So it really depends on which direction you want to give to your activity and what decision you're ready to make to ensure the best metrics on your Seller Central. And also, an important point again to remind is that it's not because you are using an Amazon paid service that it will guarantee that you will not have any negative feedback. Because as we see earlier, there will be occurrences where we need to leave the feedback as it is. Just to give you an example, if the the order is an FBA order, and the the buyer says that there was, I don't know, a lateness with the delivery, and that they contact the seller and the seller wasn't really helpful with them, we will have to keep the feedback, because yes, the delivery is Amazon's responsibility, but the customer service, since the buyer contacted you, you are involved in it. So we have to keep the feedback because it mentions something that you are related to. So in this instance, we have to leave the feedback as it is. Um, the last point we wanted to talk about regarding the voice of the feedback removal, sorry, the feedback, is the voice of customer section. So in Seller Central, you have a section which is called Voice of Customer, which is a hub. You can access it by typing voice of the customer on the search bar on Seller Central, and it will redirect you directly to this hub. And basically, it will combine all the information from the product review, the seller feedback, the messages you receive from customers, the A to Z claim, etc., etc., just to determine the health of each of your offers on Seller Central. This tool is really useful because it will help you to target exactly where you can get some improvement, where you can work a little bit more, which are the per se the weakest offer that you have in your inventory, and just to make sure that you will be able to improve anything that you can improve. So if you never use this tool, I really recommend you to check on it, because it's actually quite useful, and also to prevent any deactivation of your offer. If you see that there's more and more negative product review, negative feedback regarding a specific offer, it can lead to a deactivation of the offer itself. So it can help you to prevent that. And to conclude this all this presentation, I would just like you to know that basically the feedback and the negative feedback should not be perceived as a punishment from the buyer. It should always be perceived as um, an opportunity to optimize and to improve your activity. I know that it's easier to say than to do in reality, and that in some instances you will really feel that the feedback is unfair. But even when you feel that, I really encourage you to focus on the thing you can do on your side. Of course, you can ask for the removal to be removed, for the feedback, sorry, to be removed. But if Amazon says you that we cannot remove it, it might be really frustrating to face this kind of situation, but it doesn't mean that there's nothing you can do on your side to improve the activity, to improve the customer experience, and to prevent future negative feedback to be sent on specific product, on specific orders, or specific shipping type. So there's always a way to try to optimize it. There's no perfect way, and also there will be some mistake made. I mean, nobody's perfect. There will be times where you will do a mistake and it will lead to negative feedback. Even if it's not an intentional mistake, that's something that can happen. And the best way to see things, specifically regarding this topic, which is kind of complicated, is to keep in mind that there are some things you can do, and this is what you should focus on. And for the things you cannot do or you don't have any leverage on it, You can, of course, make reports. You can use the feedback section also on Seller Central to say that you don't think it's normal. You would like it to change. You can do all of that, but that should not be your priority. Your priority should always be on what you have a leverage. So again, I know it's easier for me to say that because I don't work with you as a seller. I don't work as a seller. I don't face the same issue that you may face on a day-to-day activity. But that really be the advice that I will give you for this specific topic, because I know it can be really painful for many of you. And the best way to have a good experience out of it is to just have uh, to orientate your focus in the right direction. So we have not completed the presentation by for itself. So we have at the end of the presentation a list of help page that we used to build this presentation, and we highly recommend you to consult those pages because they have a lot of information that will be helpful for you to understand how the customer review and the buyer's feedback work, what you can do, what you cannot do to ask them to be removed, to manage them, and so on. So I really recommend you, if you haven't done so yet, to read and go through some of those pages. And in any case, if you have any specific question regarding a case in particular, you can also contact the seller support to ask them for further investigation and further information, so they can assist you on a more specific area. So now that we completed it, I will give the floor back to Michele, and we will go over the Q&A session. Thanks, everyone.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Teddy. Excellent presentation. So yes, we received some questions, and so we will have 20 minutes to reply to all of them. I already tried to do so via the chat. But yes, there are still some, maybe something that will it's better to be addressed, let's say, by you. Um, and I would like just to say a couple of words. Maybe if you can go back to the first slide, between the differences among or between customer product reviews and seller feedbacks. Yeah, there is some um, I apologize on behalf of Amazon, because I think that there are some misunderstanding, which is quite easy, because sometimes in English, in particular, you are using the word reviews for both of them. So for the seller reviews or uh, for the customer reviews, um, which actually are different. Okay, so as we explained, I think that most of you understand it, but just to be sure, that because I saw in the question that some of you are mixed up the way for asking the removal of them. And also we received a question about if we can sorry, it was a question if we can move seller feedback to a customer product review. So just to clarify, no, they are two fully different way of, I don't know, of commentary on Amazon. The first, the customer product review, is a review for the product. Okay, so which is not related to you as a seller. It's not related to you as a merchant on Amazon. It's just related to the product that a specific customer purchased on Amazon, and also in case outside of Amazon. Okay, so that's not something which is related to your account. It's related to your to a product that maybe you can sell or not. Okay, this seller feedback instead is something really related to your account, and it's related to the order that a customer made to your for your product, for the product you are selling, you as an Amazon merchant are selling. So they are not reviewing or rating the product, they are rating you as a seller. For these two, I will go back. So you cannot mix the two of them. They have different pages on Amazon. They have different also pages for this for the buyers to rate or to write their comments. And so that's very important to understand it, because I know that even in the help pages, Amazon sometimes calls reviews everything, which is I mean, grammatically correct, but I would like to focus on the when you speak about feedback and review about the order. This is a seller feedback, okay? When you speak about customer reviews and product reviews, usually this is a customer product reviews. I'm sorry for this. I know that in the help page I found a lot of mixed words because we first of all, Amazon use reviews for both of them, but it has to be clear that they are two different um, kind of commentary that you can find on Amazon platforms. And the first one and the most important for you, because it impacts your metrics, is the seller feedback. Okay, so the review, if you want, that a customer leave for the order he purchased with you as a seller in Amazon. Okay, so just apart from that, so you cannot mix them, you cannot move one from the others because you cannot. It's not the same thing. And if you are selling a product, you want to remove the product. So sorry, to remove the customer product review that because you think it's not fair, the product you are selling is not so bad, and so on, you can do through the community team, as Teddy explains, which is one path, and it's not worked by seller support. We have no visibility on that kind of escalation path to ask for removal of a customer product reviews. Instead, yes, we can have visibility and we can eventually manually remove a seller feedback, which is something that you have to use Feedback Manager to ask for a removal. Okay, so that's the two different way that you can remove them. So in this case, I would say that the most painful point for you usually is the seller feedback. So the ratings that you receive directly on your let's say account as an Amazon merchant. And but this is something that I know it's difficult, but sometimes we can also, as from seller support, remove for you if some of the criteria that Teddy just explained are respected. Okay, sorry for this long introduction, but I think that is very complicated because Amazon doesn't make it simple in the help pages as well. So I think we have to be sure that you understand this. Um, so let's go back to the question. And I have some question for you, Teddy, just to be sure. Yes, first of all, I think that we all know how to access Feedback Manager and Voice of the Customer now, because I think that I received some question on this about Voice of the Customer. I know that a lot of sellers don't use it a lot. I think that it's quite useful tool. You have to get used to it, but I suggest to give it a chance actually, and try it. It's on Seller Central under Performance, Voice of the Customer. So it's quite easy. You go on your menu, you choose Performance and Voice of the Customer. So the questions. Bu- 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 Yes, that's for example a question related to what I just said. I think it's good for you, Teddy, to explain another time this concept, which is a bit confusing. Can we leave a response? Ollie asked. Can we leave a response to seller feedback, thanking them for their feedback, and ask them to leave a product review?
Well, I'd say yes. You can ask to leave a product review, or even contact the buyer directly on Seller Central Messenger to ask them to leave either a product review or a seller feedback. The only thing is that you cannot influence their feedback. So, for instance, you cannot leave a public response or a private response saying, "Please give me 5 stars." That's the only thing you cannot do. But you can ask them to leave a review the same way that we ask you to leave a feedback at the end of this session. We ask for your opinion, we ask for your feedback, but we're not supposed to influence what will be your appreciation of the presentation. And the same way, you're not supposed to influence the appreciation from the buyers about the order or about the product. but you can obviously ask them to leave a comment, whether on the product detail page or on your seller page. Yes.
Uh, then Andrea is asking, Teddy, how do you advise to do the seller review removal request to the customer after the issue is solved? Um, it's only once and only using the automatic message from Feedback Manager. Um, what do you think?
Mm,
It's a good
I'm
advice.
well, I'm not sure it's that there's a a perfect way to ask that. I would really depend on your approach with the buyer itself. I'd say that if you have I don't know if you sorry, if you communicate with the buyer and you see that you have a good contact with them and you manage to resolve the issue, you can, after everything is resolved, you can ask them, look, I see that you left the negative feedback, but it really has a bad impact on my metrics. So if you be eager to remove it, please do so, but again, it's not an obligation. And then if the buyer says that he doesn't want to, you should insist, but you can ask. I mean, the only thing is that when you ask it, you should not push them to do it or try to influence their choice. It will be up to them at the end, because, and as I said, like if you feel that you have a good contact with them, then you can be direct and say, look, can you please remove it? And they will be saying yes, okay. If it's resolved, I will remove it. Or if they want to leave it, they will also tell you, and in this case you have to give the feedback. And also, it's not mentioned during the presentation, but if the buyers say to you in the buyer seller messaging, if they say that they want to remove the feedback but for some reason they can't, this is something that you can raise to your removal request on the case, because that would be the kind of scenario when we can eventually remove the feedback. If we have the proof that the buyer is trying to remove the feedback but they face a technical issue or they don't have time or whatever, you can raise the case, and we might be able to remove the review for them.
Thank you, Teddy. So I think I don't know what happened. If it was my, ah, yeah, sorry. I think that we lost your screen share. No, it's fine. Sorry, it's when just me.
No,
And
yeah, I
maybe
think it's
Teddy.
me.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
click on the wrong button.
Okay,
Well,
okay. In any case, just yeah, some other uh, questions. In this case, I just collect a couple of questions uh, on customer product reviews. So the reviews that are not left to you as a seller, but to the product,
mhm.
and the community help team. Um, Leah is asking if we suspect that a competitor is leaving fake negative reviews on our product, is contacting community help the only way to counteract that issue? First one,
Yes,
what?
in this
Okay,
case, yes. If you see that the review is left, and for this, I think it would be the best option. Best option would be to collect as many reviews as you can and send an email to community help. So yeah, you can do this kind of report. And if you have a point of contact at Amazon, you can also ask them uh, to check
to
on
speed
that,
up the
because
process, yeah,
yeah, they
maybe.
might be able to escalate that internally. They won't be able to act directly on it, but they can maybe try to find a way to interact with the team that will be handling the request, and try to have further review on your request. But yeah,
Yeah, that's
definitely community help will be the way to report that.
yeah, I want just to add to this, yeah, because of our experience, I think we can share it. Even if we don't have any contact with community help, we have in limited cases the possibility not to have a direct contact, but to eventually escalate some issues which are very urgent and clear. Okay, so for example, I think in 3 years it was a couple of times that I did it for for one or two sellers, and it's just to let you know, it's not something that we are supposed to do. For example, or if we are supposed, I mean, if we do so, it's because it it's happened under specific circumstances, under a specific operational process. So, for example, if for sure we found 10 10 customer reviews and our sellers flag it to us, they already contact community help, which replies or do not reply for a couple of weeks. We can try, even if sometimes we can be flagged for this because it's not our job, but we can try to send an escalation for it. So this is really an extreme possibility. It's not something that should happen, but it could happen if it's something really urgent and really clear, as for example can be some competitor leaving 2 3 10 customer reviews, fake customer reviews. But if also before of that, I would say that also Amazon already has a team which proactively check the marketplace. So sometimes you could not see, for example, understand, but your review has already been removed. I know it is not the situation which happens too much, but it happens. Another question from Matt about the community team, very simple one, and I don't know if we can reply, but I know what we can reply. How long can it take for the community team to investigate a product review? Maybe.
Honestly, I don't have any much information on that because, as I said, there will be occurrences that when they won't reply to the seller. So we don't exactly know, and it will. I think that will depend on the volume of the request they will receive. But Michele, if you have any more information on that, you
No,
can
I know
jump
that.
in.
No, I know that actually it can take quite a long period, meaning some weeks, or even, and that's the most important thing that I would like to underline once again, even they also cannot reply, even if they already investigated the review. You have to understand that actually, as the community team works on directly on reviews flagged by you on the web, on the platform, you can imagine how many flags they receive every day. So they try. I don't know how they work. It's really we don't know, and we cannot know because of Amazon policy. So it's another department. We have no visibility. We have no contact. It's not really something related to seller support. But I can imagine that they really receive a lot of flags each day. So they have to find a way to check some of them, and they will reply usually to the most clear ones or most evident ones. Then we come back, I think, to seller feedback. Lea again is asking if we offer a courtesy refund to the buyer. Can we also ask them if they will be willing to remove their negative feedback?
Yes. Uh, I mean, in any circumstances, you can always ask to the buyer if they are willing to remove the feedback. And as I said with the previous answer we gave for a similar question, the only thing is that you cannot push them to remove their feedback. And in this specific scenario, you cannot put this courtesy refund as a condition for them to remove the feedback. In the sense that you cannot say, okay, if you remove your feedback, we will refund you. This is something that you cannot do because then you will push them to remove the feedback. But you can ask, of course, after you refund, you can ask them, could you please remove the feedback? And then they will decide if yes or no, they will remove it.
Okay, Leah is saying that she was not talking about the feedback, but about the product review. So, um,
Ah, okay,
let's say, is there
that's
any
the same.
possibility? Let's say, is there any possibility to write a public answer to a bad customer review?
To a bad review? No, for the review, like
You
we've
cannot.
checked this morning, we don't have the option. There might be some feature on Amazon that allows some sellers to do so, but I don't think it's something really common. And in general, for the product review, because the thing is with the product review, it will be on the product detail page, so it will be assigned to different sellers. Sometimes you will see a bad review from a buyer that didn't order with you directly, and there's basically nothing you can do about that except report it if you see that the review doesn't respect the guidelines. But yeah, as the opposite of the feedback for the review, you don't have the opportunity to leave a public response to that.
Yes, and as I already mentioned this morning, I think that actually a good tip for you is if, for example, you are selling this product and you are not agreeing with a specific review, you can eventually access as a buyer and leave a product review for this product, not replying to that one, but explaining why for you it's a good product. That's something that you can do, for example, even if it's not so orthodox, but that's fine. Um, so, well, I have still some questions from before. This is something very, I think, specific. I don't know if you have some ideas, or we can maybe redirect to their POC. But Giselle is asking: is there any way we can check the rating of each child or slash individual SQ in a variation family? I think she was speaking about the rating of each SQ in the voice of the customer dashboard. I don't know if you have any information on that, or if you want me to try to respond.
Well, yeah, because I was about to suggest to check on the voice of the customer dashboard because there will be a metrics offer by offer, and I assume that it'll also separate the child from a same variation with their own feedbacks and reviews, sorry, and ratings. But
Yeah,
yeah, if
I
you
would
want to jump on
suggest the
that, yeah.
same. Yeah,
Mhm.
actually, as I told before, voice of the customer is a new, let's say, is a new hub, which is actually, some in some ways unexploited from us as well, because as I told you before, many sellers don't use it. So also for us, it's difficult to know it better. But I'm used to know it better, and I'm getting used to it. And I can say that yes, there are the two metrics that check every offer you are giving in on Amazon, and definitely I think this is the best way that you can check the rating for each SQ. Also, even let's say in a variation family. So that's our suggestion. What is the best practice for customer? This is, I would say, the last couple of questions, because then I will share the survey. Alex is asking what for you, Teddy, as an expert, is the best practice for customers leaving bad reviews or feedback that they cannot return an FBA order due to the nature of the product, such as, for example, food and hygiene reasons. Could those reviews and feedbacks be requested be removed, since those are FBA orders with a limitation due to the hype of the product? Uh, uh, well, it's quite complicated, this question, but I would say that basically Alex is asking if FBA orders, we can have like they cannot return FBA order to the nature of the product. Okay, like, yeah, food supplements, they cannot be returned. Um, uh,
Mm.
I can
Yeah, I can reply this question
Yeah,
because
okay, try it. Yeah,
with
I
the
understood the question now. Okay, go on.
with the information that Alex gave on this question, like there's two main aspects: is that the order is an FBA one, and the dissatisfaction regarding the returns is the bad Amazon policy. So in that case, yeah, I will advise to ask for the removal of the feedback. The only thing is that uh, if it's the product review, I will recommend to report it because if it's related to the FBA delivery and the Amazon's policy, I'm not sure that it belongs on the review. But it's if it's about the feedback, it will depend of the way the feedback has been written and what's in the feedback in its uh, overall. So in that case, I cannot say that it will definitely be removed or will definitely be maintained. It has to be investigated by the seller support. But yeah, that's the kind of case when you can ask for removal of the feedback because it's a very specific case which implies many things that are not eligible in line with the Amazon's policy. So we need to have a proper check on this kind of feedback so we can determine if the feedback can be removed or if it has to be maintained.
Agree. I will take the last question from. I will. take it from Arturas, and it's about feedbacks. So bad feedbacks, let's say. So if a customer contact us and leaves a bad feedback, are we allowed to ask them to update the review, or sorry, the feedback, if we manage to fix the issue, for example, let's say? Because from what I understood from what you said, we cannot put pressure on them. Um, do you
Yeah,
want
well,
to reply?
it's basically the same question than we have before. Um, the only thing is that you cannot ask to update the feedback because even the buyer will have the opportunity to do it. There's no there's no option in the system to edit the feedback. I think it was mentioned in one of the slides that we showed earlier. Once they post the feedback, they cannot change it. They can either keep it or remove it. And if you manage to resolve the issue, and as I said, if you are in touch with the buyers and you think that they will be receptive to your request, you can of course ask them if they can remove the feedback because you have to resolve the issue and it still impacts your negatively your metrics. So you can ask, but then if the buyer say no, I want to keep my feedback because it was a bad experience for me, so I want to keep it that way, then you cannot insist, and unfortunately we will have to keep the feedback.
Yeah, I also, the last ad I will do this. Just you can. There is a difference about asking or putting pressure, or asking or ask them to do so because you, I don't know, for you offer a deal on another product, or you just put pressure on them. That's two different stuff. For example, if something happened and the buyer's willingness to change or to update a feedback, but he cannot, they can eventually contact from their side the customer service, which is not seller support, and ask them to remove a feedback. Okay, so they
Exactly.
can eventually, you can ask this um, for the for them to contact actually the customer service. So I was checking the last question, but can you ask the customer to leave a review? We already replied it very quickly. You can check the help page I sent a couple of times actually about this. As I told already in the chat, we don't require, I mean, Amazon don't require you to request reviews because usually, it's 100% sure the systems from our platform already do that on your behalf. If you still want to, let's say, send another reminder to the buyers, you can do it by the order details, and I think also by the seller messaging. But you have like a button on the order details that you can use to ask for a review from the buyer. To do so, just go to the order manage page, choose the order that you want to I mean to I mean the specific order you are trying to have the review to from, and click on request a review. I just check. Yes, I sent a capture yeah, a couple 20 minutes ago on this, and there is an page that I shared before, which is this one. I just copy paste my message on this, which explain to you where you can find this, and that's it. Um, okay, so this is just last question because of Joanna. We reply, repeat, what happens if you receive bad feedback but no communication received from buyer? That's not, we cannot reply to this because it's very specific. Depends what happened during the order. It's so general, this one. So no communication doesn't mean that they cannot leave a bad feedback. For example, let's say if there is an issue uh, with the delivery which is unrelated to have a communication with sellers, or it's not something
Yeah,
that is, I mean,
actually, Michele, I can jump on that question very
yeah,
quick.
please.
Indeed, the thing with the bad feedback, because that's also a point that is raised by many sellers, that if the buyer left a many negative feedback complaining about any issue that occurs during the order, but they didn't uh, inform the seller that there was an issue, in that case, it's not eligible for a removal because it's not because they didn't contact you that the issue didn't happen. That's the thing basically. And I know it might sound unfair because like if you have been aware that there was an issue, you will be able to work on it and maybe change the buyer's mind. But again, it's not an obligation from their part to contact you if there's an issue. It's just that they have the right to say that they encounter an issue. And again, as I said, it's the same for any kind of feedback you will ask or receive um, on internet, basically. Like for instance, for this presentation, if you don't want to leave any feedback, we won't force you to do so. And if there's something that doesn't add up for you, or if it's something you don't like, if you leave a bad feedback about that, we won't silence you because of that. It's your right as a customer to give your opinion about reading the feedback. So yeah, I know that it may sound unfair sometimes, but that's basically the way the policy is working. So yeah, and I've seen also just before we conclude that there was another question for Arturas,
Hmm.
which were asking if the buyer can
Sorry, sorry,
re-add.
Terry, just sorry
Yep.
to jump in just a second because I just already shared the
Yeah, I've seen
about
I've seen that.
feedback. Speaking, I already shared the survey so that we are sure that they can already start to reply and leave because I know that we are
Yeah,
boring
exactly. Because yeah, we
after a while.
we
So
we are
so
going
if
over
they
time. Yeah.
can, yeah, so if they can leave feedback in the meanwhile, and for sure you can reply to Arturas, and then we will leave a couple of minutes for them to reply again to the other, a couple 3-4 minutes to
Yeah,
reply
yeah.
to the questions.
Exactly. I will just go quickly on that because it's a very good question. Indeed, when the buyer has removed the feedback, they can post a new one. I think they can just do that once. The only thing is they cannot post two feedback for the same order at the same time. They have to remove the first one and then post another one. So that's the only way they can actually update their feedback, but they cannot modify it while it is still online. They have to remove the first one and post a new one. So, and it's possible for the feedback, but not for the review. So if the buyer remove his product review, there's no other product review that he can leave for the order.
Great. Thank you, Teddy, and thank you, all of you. Really hope that you like this session. As I told you at the beginning, well, the Issue Resolution Academy will provide other topics and other webinars soon. You will be in touch with your POC from Amazon about that. So I will leave you until 4 and 4:25, 26 p.m. To fill the survey, which is very useful for us. I would like to thank you very much for being here, for attending today. Thank you, Teddy, for your expertise, I would say, and for your excellent
Thanks to
presentation.
you, Michele.
And I would like to thank you all. Thank you, sellers, for being here and attending. Thank you.
Yeah, same as Michael just said. Really, thank you for to all of you to participate to this webinar. And I know again that this specific topic can be really harsh and really complicated to deal with. And I really thank you for all the questions you asked because that was really interesting to have this conversation with you. Try to see what are the pain points for you. It will be really useful for us. And in any case, if you have any doubt about a specific situation that you faced, as I said, you can contact the seller support or your Amazon's POC to ask the question. Again, thanks to everyone and have a good day.